It's about the 8th of November, and the frost hasn't really hit them yet, but they're certainly slowed down and stopped, so it's time to start lifting. Ain't really any secrets to it whatsoever. It's just a case of take the canes out, which I've already done with this one. So the canes are out the ground, and I pick this one because I can actually get to it. Canes out, and then I cut it not too low down, and just cut all the tops away like that. So I'll do that, and then we'll get it out of the ground and see what we've got. Having the dog joining in is always a bonus. So that's canes out, cut down and lift. So just cut it down, not too low at this stage, because I want something to get hold of, and if I don't lift them and the frost comes along and takes the tops of the stems, then I know it's stuff that I'm cutting back. If you cut it right down to the base and then you leave them in the ground and the frost comes along, then you can start rotting that stem, so I sort of tend to leave it sealed up. It's not going to be easy left-handed and one-handed, so it's just getting near the plant. I'm a bit lazy really. I should dig all the way around it, but I'm just going to go and lift and give it a shake. This is Winarm Dahlia, which tends to always be a very clumpy tuber, very sort of clubby. So that's that out the ground. That's the second one I've lifted. The first one was absolutely huge, certainly for Dahlia. Here it is. As you can see, that's absolutely massive, which is fine, apart from you've got to store it, and just takes up a lot of room in the tray. Something like that, that's a perfect clumpy tuber for me. And all I'll do when that gets home, I'll really cut it down into here, so I can get this stem dried out and stored for the winter. But like that, I don't mind. I can deal with them, I can handle them, and all the cleaning up process I'll let them in the greenhouse. But typical Dahlia tuber, very clumpy, not much fine root, but generally easy to store as long as you can keep that stem from rotting. Then we have to keep doing that throughout the site. I won't lift every tuber. I don't need 40 tubers everything. I've got the ones that I've marked for myself, and they're the ones still with the cane in, and that's what I'll be propagating from. But all the others, there's nothing wrong with them, and they go off to various tuber sales and people that are swapping around with me. This is going to be another problem, and it always is with good ground and good care, and the whole point of keeping that base of the plant soft to get plenty of water and food up the stem is that you get these. This is Valentine. You can see I can't get my hand around that tuber. It's really probably about 4 inches across. Now that, once it comes out the ground and you're trying to store it, will only want to rot, so good care is going to need to be taken there. Plenty of airflow, and cut it down as close to the tuber as I can, and expose the core, which we'll do later. But the Valentine bed is clear, as is the Winarm bed. We'll probably do the Moonlights next. It's time to get a bit dark now, but that's the plot clear. All the canes out, other than the ones marking my particularly good tubers, so I know where they are when I dig them up. And even the dog looks like it's had enough, curled up in amongst the Dahlia tops. So I'll come back next week and lift them. Got the crates up here ready to put them into. Hung the canes up from the framework just to get a bit of air around them and dry out a bit, rather than stuffing them in a bucket. I haven't got any storage up here, so that's the best I can probably do. Right, just so you didn't have to wait till Wednesday, and I've got a greenhouse full of tubers, and while I've got Finn the cameraman handy, because doing this one-handed isn't easy, I've just brought in the 2 tubers I lifted up out of the allotment, and I've just literally dug out the ground from the garden, quite a stark difference, 2 other tubers, so you've got an array of the different types you're likely to get. This is a Winholm dying tuber. It just come out the ground like that, cut long, typical dying tuber, always a nuggety, gnarly old clump. Don't know how you'd ever chicken leave that if that's what you ever chose to do. The compost around it is quite dry. I don't like digging into the crown with the knife to clear it out. I tend to just let that do it itself. You can remove some of that. You'll find that most of it will come off on its own, just working in there. I'm really not trying to get these immaculately clean, just clean enough around the crown, and again you can quite often switch over. The label itself is quite good for just picking out around there if you want to just expose where the tubers meet the stem. That's the bit that's likely to rot, but if it's just a potting compost, which effectively that is, I'm not really too bothered about it. Tuber wise, I tend to leave the top on while I'm handling it, just gives you a bit more to get hold of, and these finer roots just nibble off where you can, especially if you've kinked them or damaged them while you were lifting it. So we've got these bits here. It's not something I want to spend hours ever doing, because if you've got a lot of tubers, then it's a lot of work. I don't find it's that important. It's just about stopping the smaller roots shrivelling up and taking the moisture and the plumpness out of the main tuber. Let's just trim it around. Kitchen scissors are quite good, and you can just get in there and put that out. But I haven't managed to nick the kitchen scissors yet this year, although I'm sure they'll find their way out here. Don't tell Lisa. There we go. So that's just good enough for me. That's the clump trimmed up, nice and solid. Always give it a pat to get the soil out. Now the stem, this is a bit that wants to rot. This is a reasonably sensible one. I will go in there just so I can get into it and start removing some of these bits here. Now the stem itself is quite solid, so you've got choices once you can get in there. A pair of loppers might help. Get it down to that. Now there is very fleshy, piffy stem in there and no real airflow, so I tend to get in there and just open it up. You can use a long pointed knife and go through, or a drill which I haven't got to hand, but I'll just tend to open up that core a bit, just to allow for some air in there, but it tends to be solid, so while it stays sound I'm fine, and I'm happy to leave it like that. This will dry out. If it starts getting a bit soft around the top, then I'll cut it down further down there, but sometimes buttering into them this low can cause more damage than good, but that's close enough. It gives us a tuber, twist tie, if we can get it through the hole in the label, and it's trying to find somewhere to put it, so I tend to go on there and twist tie it round, hold it in. You can just stab them in the stem or in the tuber itself, but I find that moving them around you tend not to lose them. Mesh tray upside down like that for a little bit won't hurt. If there is any moisture in that stem, it will make its way out, and have it being meshed, there's plenty of air around it. You then get these stupid tubers like this, which is also a Winholm dying, and to be honest, if I didn't have to use it, which I probably don't, I haven't lifted up the ones that I've marked yet. I probably wouldn't worry too much with this, because quite likely it's going to fill the tray up when I try to set it out, because it's so big. So quite likely this will end up being given to someone else, and they can have the trouble of trying to find room and a tray deep enough to do anything with it. But again, we have got this crown on the top there, and that really does need opening up, so at least I can get in there, chop it back a bit, and this is probably one that I would get the drill out if I had one to hand. Get in there, just to get in there and cut it. See that bit there, that's the way in, that's the hole. So as long as we've exposed some air into there, into that hollow stem, or what, not so hollow stem, that'll be alright. And again, these bottom bits, fine bits, just nibble them off. I mean, this is such a chunky tuber, I don't really think much is going to happen to the tubers, just maybe the stem. It's the danger of feeding. So again, he can go over there, he'll have his label, and that's what I meant by pushing in a tuber. Doesn't seem to hurt. And over onto there. Now these are normal tubers, sensible tubers. They've come out of the garden. I've literally just dug them out of the ground. You can see the pot and compost still around the top. Best thing to do with these, if you're going to trim them up, is just to tickle away around there, and at least you can get to it. And I would literally just cut that straight down, because it's one stem, nice and simple. Down there, that can come off, that can come off. And what you end up with actually is a pretty tidy, sensible tuber that should keep, because the stem's not so big. Still attached. It's got a nice little stem on there, and it will dry out and go nice and firm. Use those off there, and a nice nuggety tuber, not too dissimilar to a good size pot tuber. So that's that, and again, label, tight round there probably, but for the moment I'll just put it in there. So that is a tuber that will actually keep, and if someone sent me that to take a few cuttings off, I wouldn't be too disappointed. There's going to be plenty of eyes around there, and I can get a lot of those in the tray to get a lot of cuttings opposed to something like that, which is going to be a real pain. So sensible. Now the only other type you get are these, and that's a fingery one. This has got the twilight. Hopefully, I've literally just picked one and dug it up, so hopefully the others are better. You've just got to get this out from here, and this is one that I would probably, again, tidy up, trim up, nice and low. But all these fine tubers, if you cut all them away, there wouldn't be much left. So for me, it's a trim round. Trim all these short back. There's a couple of reasonable bits in there, see they stay on. Just tidy it up. Damage one there, put that back. And because it's fresh out of the ground, it's still a bit damp around there, but that will probably slow it from shrinking. And just leave that like it is on the tray. And again, label. Right, ones like that are the ones you've got to look out for. They might shrivel up a bit quick, and you might want to then just nestle them into a tray with some compost, just to slow the shrinking down, and maybe wake them up a bit earlier. But we've got everything from that upwards, but don't be disappointed if the tubers come out like that, because they're actually going to do the job. This is more average, as is that. So hopefully that'll do. They'll stay in here now. There'll be a fan heater in here. Days like today, it's not cold, door will be open, let the air come in, and the fan heater will be set to phosphorus about, probably I'll keep it around about 7 or 8 degrees roughly, just to drop in if the temperatures come down below that. The last thing you need them to do is to get frosted, but you do need plenty of air and let the air move around. And let's face it, we're now about the 12th or 11th of September, November even, and by Christmas we're only talking about 6-7 weeks away. These will be going in just compost, on heat and waking up again, so we're not trying to store them for long. Hopefully that helps. Good luck with yours. Well, good news. One of the plot holders have got to know this is like the bit of an elite corner. The guy who wins the best allotment awards up in this corner. And I've got to know him as well. But there's a guy that's got this plot here, which as you can see has been worked very well for a number of years, and the soil is lovely, decent soil. He's giving this one up. Unfortunately there's a bit of a waiting list, and he wants to make sure that someone gets this plot is going to get the most out of it and not let weeds grow and get the best value out of the hard work he's put in over the years. You can see it grows a cabbage and a sprout quite well. So he's going to keep it in his name until the list disappears and then transfer it over to me. But as said, that I can grow my dahlias in this plot, which is about the same size as mine, if anything slightly better soil this coming year. And the other good news is at the end of it is a water butt, so we've got very easy access to water on this plot, which should be great because probably the ponds and so on are coming here. So this will be all the ponds and miniatures next year, with the mediums, smalls, mediums and large over there. Again, fairly close end to the gate, but still a bit of a trot to get it over there when it comes to cutting flowers, but very happy. It's a good bit of ground, and that gives me the numbers I want for next year up on the allotment.